Amen. Is my church here with me today? Okay, I just wanted to make sure y'all was here. Today we're starting a mini-series, if you would, entitled When Necessary. When necessary. And in this sermon, we're going to be discussing evangelism. The process, if you would, of sharing our faith. And so for the next, for today and next week, we're going to be, again, talking about sharing our faith and then giving you nuts and bolts practices for how you can do that, how you can share Jesus with the people around you. Now, I believe that in order for you to share Jesus well, then you need to know what Jesus has done for you. You need to know how he saved you, how he's redeemed you. If you're going to share Jesus, and if you're going to share him effectively, it's going to happen because you have become so intimately acquainted with what he's done in your life that you feel like you don't have no other option or no other choice but to share his goodness, his love, and his kindness in the world. Now, you probably heard this saying in the past, and I want to just clarify some things for you, even as we begin this process of understanding best how we should share our faith. There's this quote that goes around, and a lot of us take it and have ran with it in a kind of, how can I say it, in a little bit of a whimsical or even irresponsible way. Here's the quote. The quote is, preach the gospel or share Jesus and use words when necessary. Has anybody heard that phrase in here before? Share Jesus, preach the gospel, and use words when necessary. And the idea is that we should be living all of our lives in such a way that people see Jesus by the way we walk. That they see Jesus by the way that we talk and the way that we love on each other. So the idea is, hey, preach the gospel with your life. Use words only when absolutely necessary. In other words, practice what you preach in such a loud way that people would come to believe on Jesus by watching your life. It really is, in some ways, a good and a helpful idea. In some ways, it's encouraging and it's almost corrective for us who like to talk about stuff and not really be about stuff. Is anybody with me? Amen. In some ways, it's encouraging and helpful for we, maybe not you. You might be a better Christian than me, but it's helpful for us who like to talk a lot. Y'all not with me? It's quiet in. It is helpful for people who like to talk a lot, but don't necessarily walk in step with what they're talking about. Right? So because for me, I like to talk. Somebody said, I know. See me, I like to talk. And so talking is nothing for me. I'll talk till I'm blue in the face. I'll talk all day long. I'll talk even after you've done listening to me. And then I'll talk some more. Right? Like I'm good for that, right? And watch this. It can often be easier for me to talk to you about something than for me to engage deeply with you and to show you with my actions what I'm talking about. Yeah. Are you with me? Yes. It can be easier for me in my flesh to talk to you or to talk about it more than I actually am about it. Are you following me? Yeah. Like it's nothing to tell you about my faith. It's nothing to tell you about love. It's nothing to tell you about what Jesus calls Christians to do. It's nothing to talk to you even about like this loving kindness that Jesus shows and that he calls his church to. It's a whole different thing though. To engage with you deeply and help you to understand that by loving on you. It's easy to talk about love, it's harder to love. It's easy to talk, it's in some ways easier to talk about the faith than it is to actually walk out the faith among people. Are you with me? So we like this phrase and this quote. Preach the gospel and use words when necessary. Preach the gospel, preach Jesus, but only use words when necessary. It helps us again with our sense of living out what we believe and profess. However, that quote has been taken out of context by a lot of us. However, that quote used wrongly makes us to think that we can explain Jesus with our actions rather than with our words. An exaggerated understanding of that phrase, preach the gospel, use words when necessary, can often cause us to underemphasize the proclamation and talking or preaching of the gospel. What I want to talk to you about today is the importance of not just living out the gospel, but instead of proclaiming the gospel. I want to talk to you a little bit today about how necessary the sharing verbally of your faith really is. So we're going to look at that today, then we're going to look at it tomorrow. Then in a couple of weeks, we're going to have an Evangelism Explosion Sunday service. That's going to be a week where we talk about and celebrate how God has used us to share our faith with the people at our work, on our block, or wherever we are. So let's get right into it. We're going to be in the book of Matthew today, and we're looking at chapter 9, verses 9 through 13. Again, we're in the book of Matthew. We're looking at chapter 9, and then we're going to read verses 9 through 13. But before we actually read it, let me just say this. A couple of weeks ago, we finished off our We Are the Church sermon series. And we finished it with a one-point sermon. The single point in that sermon was simply this: the truth regarding those set apart by God as His church. Anybody remember that sermon? Yeah. We preached a one-point sermon, and the point was the truth regarding those set apart by God and His church. In that sermon, we considered Luke chapter 5, verses 27 through 31, where Jesus announces that He came not for the well, but for the ill. In that sermon, we talked about like this statement that Jesus makes, which sounds crazy to religious folk. The statement just sounds completely oxymoronic to those who have strong religious inclinations. Jesus says there that He didn't come to save those who are well. That He didn't come to save the rule keepers. Yes, that He didn't come to save those who had it together. Oh, y'all hear me? Yeah. That He didn't come to save those who were doing real good. But that instead that He came to save those who were ill. Those who don't have it together. Those who still struggle. Yeah. They're not post-struggle, but they're still in the struggle. Right. He says there that He came to save people like you and I. Yeah. Today, we're going to consider again this statement, but from another perspective, found in the book of Matthew 9, verses 9 through 13. If you got your Bible, you can go there now. If you got a device, you can go there, or you can look right here with us at the screen. Again, this is Matthew chapter 9, verses 9 through 13. Hear the word of the Lord. As Jesus passed on from there, He saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth. And He said to Matthew, "Follow me." Matthew rose and followed Him. And as Jesus reclined at the table in His house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came and were reclining. In other words, they were chilling with Jesus and His disciples. Now watch this. It goes on to say, and when the Pharisees saw this, they said to His disciples, "Why does the teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when Jesus heard it, He said, "Those who are well have no need for a physician, but those who are sick. Go learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. For I came not to call the righteous, but sinners." For I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. I want to walk you through a little bit of this text on today. And here's what I'm going to do, matter of fact. Let's read it one more time, and I'm just going to expound on it again. Let's start from the front, Josiah. It says again, as Jesus passed on from there. So Jesus was just moving about. And as he passed on from where he was, he saw a man called Matthew. And Matthew, he was sitting at the tax booth. Now, people really didn't like Matthew. Because in some sense, at least in the way that we can understand, Matthew was like the IRS. But see, he wasn't the IRS that we know today. You ain't never seen the IRS in real life. You might get a letter from the IRS, or you might get a call from the IRS, right? But imagine you can walk down the street and it's a booth. And on the booth it says real big in large letters, IRS booth. How would you feel? You're walking down the street, boom, IRS booth. And then here goes the IRS agent just standing behind the booth. That's Matthew. Jesus is walking. And he sees Matthew. And Matthew was sitting at the IRS booth. And as Jesus sees him there, Jesus says to this guy that nobody else likes, are you following me? Yeah. Jesus says to this guy that nobody else likes, he says, hey, yo, Matthew, come and follow me. Now, nobody liked these guys. Nobody wanted to stop and talk. You know, you got to get forced to talk to IRS. Ain't nobody making friends with no IRS workers. I talked to him because I picked up the phone by mistake. Oh, y'all hear me. The only time I talk to him is when I accidentally call by mistake. Oh, when it's tax time and I want that money back. Yeah. But besides that, I ain't talking to them. I ain't going nowhere near them. Jesus, though, he's different. Somebody say, he's real different. He's real different. He's real different. He sees him at his booth, and he doesn't say, oh, thank you, and hide off. Instead, he keeps walking, and then he says, yo, Matthew, God that nobody else likes, come and follow me. Matthew does something astonishing. This guy that nobody else likes, who probably, by the way, was taking more taxes than he really needed to be, he does this. He gets up and he begins to follow Jesus. Now, whatever happened, I want you to notice something. The next verse says, and as Jesus reclined, go back. It says here, right here, and as Jesus reclined at the table in the house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came and were reclining with Jesus. And said, whoa, 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 whoa. So, Jesus is walking. He sees Matthew, the guy that nobody likes, at his IRS table and engages him and says, hey, Matthew, come and follow me. And here's where we know they wound up. Look at this text, y'all. They wound up at Matthew, the guy that nobody likes, house. Are you following me? Yeah. They wind up, for one reason or another, at Matthew's house. And now I want you to notice something else. They don't just wind up at Matthew's house so Jesus can do a Bible study with them. Are you following me? Yeah. I'm preaching already, y'all. He goes to Matthew's house. And when he goes to Matthew's house, look what he does. He reclines. He reclines at the table in the house. That's what the Bible says, y'all. Wow. It says he reclines at the house of a guy that nobody likes because he was more than likely stealing from them as he got their taxes. And Jesus, he goes and he sits down at Matthew's house. I hope you're following me because I'm trying to teach you something already through these scriptures. Nobody likes this guy. Nobody wants to deal with this guy. Jesus sees him though, and Jesus not only notices him, but Jesus, watch this, engages him. And Jesus doesn't just engage him to get him to the church. Oh, y'all quiet. He doesn't just engage him and say, yo, follow me to the synagogue. And then I want you to sit down right here and listen to me as I teach you something. He doesn't go and tell me, follow me, and we're going to church, and you're going to sit down, and I'm going to stand up teaching at you. Instead, what he does is this. He sees the God that nobody likes, tells the God that nobody likes, come follow me, and he follows him to his house. And he doesn't even sit at the table while I stand up here and say something to you. Instead, what he does is he does something like this, and then he takes the chair, sits down, reclines. That's what reclining is, right? Like this is sitting. This is reclining. Somebody ain't seen it. I got you. This is sitting. This though is reclining. Matter of fact, he had a table, right? He was at the table doing this. Reclining. Now I want you to understand something. The religious folk, they don't do that. The religious folk, when they talk to somebody they see that's bad, what they do is they do this. Sit down right there, son. Let me tell you something. You need to stop stealing, and you need to repent and do X, Y, and Z, you thief. That's what religious people do. Jesus did something different. Religious people, they do that, right? And even nice, kind people, here's what they do. Oh gosh, there's a tax collector, and he might get me for my money, so. Oh, y'all hear me? Even good people, right? They say, oh gosh. Oh God. I said like, man, how else? Even good people do that. Watch this though. Jesus is different. Jesus sees the guy that nobody likes because he's probably stealing a little bit of extra change from the people. And what Jesus does is he says, hey yo, Matthew, guy that nobody likes, come and follow me. And then watch this. He doesn't go and take him to the church. Instead, he goes and follows him to his house. Am I in the text? Yes, I'm in the text. Yes, and when he gets to the house, he doesn't just start having a conversation with him about what he wants him to know. But instead he does this. How y'all doing? Now here's what I need you to know. Let me get my man Tony. Tony, come up here, bring a chair. Tony, get that chair right there. Come over here. Put the chair right there on that side. My boy. So here's what he does. He gets over there. You know what I'm saying? Goes to the house. He's at the house, and there's some sinners. You know I pick my people right? He finds some sinners, right? They at the table, and Jesus, look, Jesus is not like you and I. I ain't sitting with no, stealers and thugs. They redeemed now, they just look like that. They redeemed, it just looks like that. Listen, religious folk, they don't just kind of go over there and sit down, with those sinners. But watch this. Jesus, he follows the sinner to the sinner's house, and he doesn't go just talking at them, but instead he gets on the table, sits down, and watch this. They sinners. Jesus knows that they're sinners. And he's not sitting there counseling them like this. But instead, he kind of does what Tony's doing right there. Hey, what's up? How y'all doing? So much so, that watch this. Come over here. I need you right there, Jimmy. You gonna stand right there for me? Pastor Jake, won't you come with? Y'all give Pastor Jake a hand of applause. Come right here. He a pastor, so he religious. You know what I'm saying? So Jesus I just made a whole mess of the church. It's all right though. Y'all been in trouble, but it's all right. Listen, I got the mic and I'm the pastor. So here's what happened. Jesus, he sits down and he's reclining with them, right? And then y'all talk to each other in your ears a little bit. Hey, over here, they talking and all this type of stuff. And now watch this. Jimmy is my disciple. Jimmy is somebody I've been training and pouring into. And Jake, he's the religious guy, right? And excuse the hat in church, you know what I'm saying? He's the religious guy. And what Jake said to Jimmy is, Jake said, hey, what do you say, Jake? As the religious guy, what you say? Nice and loud. What are you telling Jimmy over there?
Yo, Jimmy, why is this guy chilling with the sinners, the tax collectors?
What you say? Nice and loud.
What are you telling Jimmy over there? Yo, Jimmy, why is this guy chilling with the sinners, the tax collectors?
What you say? Nice and loud. What you telling Jimmy over there?
Yo, Jimmy, why is this guy chilling with the sinners, the tax collectors? What's up with that?
So the religious guys over there, the religious guy said, hey, why is your master, who's supposed to be the Messiah, why is he over there chilling with those thugs, talking with the sinners and the tax collectors? And then Jesus said, wait a minute, I want y'all to understand something. Y'all keep doing that thing. Jesus, he does not like get with the religious guy and say, word, you're right, I need to get out of here. Jesus didn't start out jamming them up. He's chilling with them. That's what it says there. He's reclined at the table in the house of the sinner. And behold, the tax collectors and sinners, they came and they're reclining and chilling with Jesus. And Jesus isn't jamming them up. But watch this. Jesus jams him up. Oh, y'all not with me? He's not jamming them up. He's chilling with them. I don't know if y'all with me. He is chilling with the sinners and the tax collectors. He's not jamming them up. He's not all in their face. But watch this. The guy that Jesus gets mad at is the religious guy. The religious guy talks about, hey, you know, you're supposed to be holy. Why are you over there chilling and eating with them? Jesus now, I believe he moves from this position right here, right? And he sits up. And he says, let me tell you something about yourself, sir. Y'all can go ahead and sit down. Thank you very much. Give him a hand of applause. Listen, Jesus, he gets up and he says, let me talk to you for a moment. Let's go to the next verse. We're in the Bible, y'all. Let's go to the next verse. Look what he says. The Pharisees saw this and they asked why he's eating with sinners and tax collectors. And he hears that and he decides he's going to say something. What he says is, hey, listen, those who are well, they have no need of a physician. Right. But those who are sick need the physician. Right. And then he tells them, he says, look at what he says. He says, go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. For I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. What is Jesus saying when he says this? What Jesus is saying is that, listen, you think that by what you do, you're going to be accepted, but what you don't know is that I'm not so much concerned by what you do, I'm more concerned about the posture of your heart. Because anybody can follow the rules. Some of y'all thought that the rule keepers are the people that got it all together and they're the good people. But you can be all the rule keeper you want to be and still have a heart that's far from Jesus. So what Jesus says is, listen, I desire mercy and not sacrifice. I desire people whose hearts are loving and empathetic and who engage the people around them more than I'm concerned about people keeping rules. Yeah. Are you following me? Yeah. And he expounds on it and explains to them, listen, I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. Oh, that's good. He says, I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. What does this mean, Pastor? What Jesus is saying when he says this is that people that think they got it all together and people who think they got all their dots in a row and people who think that they're better than what they really are, they are the furthest actually from it. What Jesus is saying is the people that think they got it going on are actually furthest from it. It's not that people who are obedient are worse than people who are disobedient. But instead, it's that people that think that by their obedience they gain acceptance, they're further from God than the sinner who realizes that he can only be forgiven and accepted not based on his own goodness, but based on God's goodness. Are you following? Jesus said, no, you missed it. Your rule keeping does not bring about salvation. I've come for sinners. In other words, people who recognize their brokenness, people who recognize, and watch this, identify as broken. People will recognize and identify, not as I got it all together, even though I really don't, but maybe I keep rules a little bit better than you. That's not who he came for, he says. He's come for those who understand the reality of who they are. I'm broken. I struggle. I've got mess and carrying on, and there's no way in the world I am righteous. I'm just not. And listen, I'm not necessarily just like swimming in everything, but listen, even on my best day, I'm far from reaching the standard of God. Jesus says, come not to call the righteous, but sinners. Now, I want you to follow me as we consider again just two brief points regarding regarding evangelism and sharing the message of Jesus. You got go with me to the first point, brother. Let's go to the first point. My first point is simply this: noticing people and praying for them is cool, but not enough. Are you following me? Yes. Noticing people and praying for them is cool, but it's not enough. Let me help you out. It's one thing to notice a person. It's a whole nother thing to engage them. Jesus not only notices Matthew, the bad guy, but he also went out of his way and engaged him and called him the bad guy to be his follower. Wow. He didn't just see him and say, oh, there's that guy and he might have an issue. Instead, he saw him and engaged him. Jesus didn't meet Matthew and immediately jam him up. Instead, he simply befriended Matthew and asked him for devotion. Matthew had no clue that by befriending this Jesus, his life would be forever changed, but that's exactly what happened. Yeah. Jesus befriended him and everything changed. The catalyst for his life change wasn't some kind of amazing theological debate. Are you following me? Yes. The catalyst for Matthew's change, the catalyst for Matthew's transformation, in other words, the thing that caused Matthew's transformation was not Jesus explaining to him every point of his doctrine. Are you with me? The thing that caused Matthew to change was not Jesus teaching him the 5 points of whatever your doctrine is. What caused Matthew to change was that Jesus not only noticed him, but also engaged him. What caused him to change was relationship with Jesus. I want you to notice that again, our text doesn't point to any form of intellectual sparring, but rather Jesus sitting, chilling, and eating with sinners. Are you following me? We're talking about evangelism today. Here's what you need to know about that. What brings people to salvation, what brings people to bowing their knee to King Jesus is not the transference of information. Are you following me? I need you to follow me extra hard today. I want to teach you something. Listen, what changes people is not walking them through different teachings. What changes people is not walking them through a set of information. What transforms people and leads people to Jesus isn't by going over this and this and this, and by the way, you need to know that. People are changed and transformed and ushered into relationship with Jesus instead of relationship. What Jesus did here in Matthew chapter 9 was not some kind of intellectual debate, but rather he sat, he chilled, and he ate with sinners. Had Jesus noticed Matthew, had Jesus just noticed Matthew, nothing would have changed. And nothing would have happened. But because Jesus engaged him, everything changed. Hey, have you ever seen somebody and said, like, you seen them at work or in your neighborhood or whatever, and they're messy, and you know they up to no good, and you notice them, and you're like, yo, I need to pray for them. That ever happened to you? Like, you just see somebody and they're going through something, and you say, man, I noticed this person is going through it. I need to pray for them, right? And then you go home and you pray for them. And you're praying God change them and God transform them and God bring them to saving faith. And you're praying earnestly. Let me help you out. For the most part, nothing is going to happen. Yeah. For the most part, nothing is going to happen. You notice them and you pray for them. But God is calling you to share the faith with them. God is calling you to engaging with them. How does God do his work in our world? He does it through us. Are you following me? Notice them. Pray for them. But don't stop there. Notice them. Pray for them. And then see them on the block and say, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Hey, I'm watching the game this weekend. The Super Bowl is on, and I'm going to do a barbecue. And yo, you're invited. I would love for you to come and hang out with them. And then when they come, sit down and chill with them. Sit down, chill, and talk with them. And in the process of that, as you are praying, as you're noticing what's going on with them, share your life. And if your life is a life filled with Christ, then guess what? You'll also be sharing Christ. The message that has brought you redemption and forgiveness. It's not enough. It's not enough to notice people and pray for them. Like, noticing people and praying for them is cool, but it's not enough. Noticing people and praying for people without inviting them to church. It's not enough. Noticing people and praying for them but not getting their names is not enough. Noticing people and praying for people without taking the next step and inviting them into relationship with you is not enough. Jesus didn't just notice Matthew, but instead he engaged Matthew, not with an intellectual debate, but instead with a lot of chilling ministry. I said chilling ministry. Y'all know what chilling ministry is, right? Chilling ministry is the boxing fight is going on. And I'm going to buy some chicken, I'm going to buy some pizzas, I'm going to have the domino table out and the spade table out, and then I'm going to let you beat me the way I let Angel and Jimmy beat me the other day. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to chill, and as we chill, we're going to do life. And now as we do life, I have a better opportunity to love them and help them. Are you following me? Yes. Listen, family, Jesus' process of evangelism was simple. It was simple. His process of evangelism or sharing the faith was simple. Watch this. He noticed people. He engaged people. He built relationships with people and proclaimed the kingdom while he did that. Are you following me? Yes. You got to understand, Jesus, the whole gospel, right, is real, regular. You hear me? In a very real way, Jesus' ministry was real regular. It was very common. As a matter of fact, watch this. The amazing thing of the gospel is that Jesus was common. Y'all missed it. How can Jesus be common? How can God be common? He's a spirit. But in Jesus, God makes himself to be like you and I. He makes himself to be like you and I, so much so that he experiences all the things that you and I experience. You ever experienced sadness? Jesus experienced sadness. You ever experienced betrayal? Jesus experienced betrayal. You ever experienced happiness? Jesus experienced happiness. You ever went to a party? Jesus went to the party. Jesus becomes man. And by Jesus becoming man, at least in one perspective, he becomes regular. But we spend all of our time trying to be different. You might have missed it. If such a big part of Jesus' ministry and the gospel is him becoming regular, why are you trying to be so different? Why are you trying to act like you just God's gift from heaven? Listen, stop being weird because you're saved. Oh, y'all hear me? Y'all hear me?
Amen.
Stop being so weird because you're saved. Your weirdness does not testify or attest to your salvation.
Amen, Pastor.
Are you following me? Sometimes we feel like the more weird we are, then the more holy we are. No, you're just weird. You're just weird. That's not what Jesus is calling us to. This ain't what God never said, hey, if you're going to follow me, you must become weird. He didn't say that. In fact, Jesus is God become regular. Regular. What is Jesus' process of evangelism? Watch this. He acted regular. He noticed people. Now watch this. He didn't do the weird stuff that we do. And like, I noticed that you're a sinner, and so I'm not hanging with you. That's weird. Here's what Jesus did. I notice you, I engage you, and as I engage you, I don't just make you come to my stuff because I'm saying that you're not and your stuff is sinful and my stuff is holy. He didn't do that. He went to their house, sat down and chilled. Like, that's crazy. Are you understanding this? He's so regular that he don't sit straight. The Bible says that he does what? He reclines. He sits at the table. Oh gosh. Listen, sinner. Jesus went out of his way to engage with you. And he did so in such a way that he came and got intimately close to you, became common and among us, and then engaged so deeply with us that we would be able to see him in all of his glory, fall in love with him, and follow him. Jesus reclined. He didn't have to recline, but he did. Became regular. Jesus' process of evangelism was simple. Notice people, engage with people, build relationships with people, and proclaim the kingdom while he did that. I put it in that order on purpose. Jesus what? Notice people, engage people, build relationship with people, and proclaim the kingdom while he did that. Amen. Now watch this. It didn't change his mission. At the end of the day, his mission was to seek and to save the lost. The process by which he sought the lost was being regular.
Amen, Pastor. Right.
His mission was to seek and save the lost. The process by which he did that was being regular. I know that at some point somebody told you that the way that you're going to evangelize or save people or seek to see people come to know Jesus is by like learning all this information and then becoming like, some kind of a holy roller, and that by you being a holy roller, people would come to know Jesus. It's not true. It's not what Jesus did. In fact, that will hinder you from engaging with people or joining God in seeing people saved. Your weirdness doesn't bring people closer to Jesus. It drives a bigger wedge between them and Jesus. Are you understanding me? Amen. Your weirdness drives a bigger wedge between people and Jesus. Let's eliminate the weirdness. Let's eliminate. That's what cruciform is. This is what cruciform is. This is our whole church. The existence of our church in some way. Here, you want to know why we exist? We exist to kill the weirdness of Christianity.
Amen. All right.
We exist to remove the wedge between people and Jesus by engaging deeply, regularly with people. By engaging regularly with people. Now, Jesus' process for evangelism was simple. And church, I think that one of the reasons we're not more effective in evangelism is because we don't know how to be regular. I think that one of the reasons why we struggle seeing people come to know Jesus or evangelizing is because we just don't know, like we forgot at some point how to be regular because we think that we're so holy.
Amen, Pastor.
Think we're so holy that we forgot to be regular. I'm going to prove this to you. There's a research group, it's called Barna. The Barna Research Group, they study the church. And here's what they said. According to Barna Research Group, only 4% of unchurched adults were invited to a church by a friend and actually went. Watch this. 23% were invited but declined the offer. And then watch this. 73% were never invited at all. Wow. Let me walk you through this again. Only 4% of adults were invited to church by a friend and actually went. It's a low percentage. 23% were actually invited and said, no, I'm good. But here's the number you should hear. 73% of people were never invited at all. Now. Let me explain. Let me go a little bit further. Why do you think that this invitation model, if you would, isn't working? There's a lady, her name is Mary, and she studied and researched this, and this is what she says. There are a number of reasons for why our invitation strategies are not working. First, not all Christians, watch this, have relationships with non-Christians. Do you hear that?
Amen.
So there's a lot of reasons why, like, our invitation strategies aren't working.
Hallelujah.
But she says that probably the foremost reason is that Christians don't have non-Christian friends.
Hallelujah.
In other words, she's saying Christians don't know how to be regular. And they don't got no regular friends. So caught up being weird. So different.
Amen.
That you don't got no non-Christian friends. Because you're so different. Hey, if you're so different that you don't have any non-Christian friends, you're doing this completely wrong. Did you hear me? If you are so different that you don't have non-Christian friends, your faith is weird, and you're doing this wrong. You're weird. Somebody say weird. Listen, don't be so weird that you don't have Christian friends. Do you understand? That completely contradicts Jesus' purpose. I need you to understand this, guys. Hey, listen. You being so different and weird that you don't have non-Christian friends goes completely against Jesus' ministry and what he's called you to.
Amen.
In fact, let me say it this way. Being so different and so weird that you have non-Christian friends makes you to be, in some ways, a non-Christian. Can we just go there? Like, if you so different, right, and so weird that you don't have non-Christian friends, there is no way you're being faithful to Christianity. Jesus says 2 commands. Love God and love neighbor. And loving neighbor is supposed to look very concrete. So if you do Christianity completely more people come to Jesus. Of course we're not seeing more evangelistic fruit. Of course we're not seeing this place filled up. Of course we're not seeing this place filled up. Of course we're not seeing all of our neighbors and people from our city in here. If we stop at noticing people, take it a step further, noticing them and praying for them. You guys hear me? This should be very encouraging for you. This should be very encouraging. You know why? Here's what it means. Stop being weird. Stop being so different that you're being like a non-Christian. Be more regular. Don't stop at just noticing and praying for people, but do what normal people do. Notice and say hi, and build from there, and Jesus will do amazing things. And Jesus will draw people who are up to no good. And Jesus will take thieves and make them to be saints. And Jesus will, he will take the Matthews in your neighborhood, at your workplace, in your community, and he'll make them to be disciples. And then from making them to be disciples, he'll transform them, and he'll equip them, and he'll fill them with his Holy Spirit, and he'll make them to become missionaries right here. This is how he does it. This is how he does it, y'all. Now listen, we need a plan to get us beyond noticing, but rather engaging. I didn't even make it to my second point. But I will right now, and I'll close this thing out. Here's my second point. You don't have to be an expert to evangelize. Just a good neighbor. Are you following me? I see what you did there. Hey, you don't have to be an expert to evangelize. All you have to be is a good neighbor.
Yeah. Amen.
Jesus shows up on the scene, becomes common in a very sacred way. Shows up on the scene, becomes common, walks down the block, sees the sinner, notices the sinner, but he doesn't stop there at noticing and praying for the sinner. Instead, he talks to the sinner, then he goes and hangs out with the sinner. The sinner gets saved. You don't have to be an expert to evangelize and to be effective at it. You just have to be a good neighbor. Matthew was changed and transformed because Jesus was a good neighbor. Are you following me?
Yeah.
He was a good. What did Jesus do so crazy in the text that we just read? Nothing. What's crazy about it is how regular he was in it. Are you following me? The only crazy part of it is that Jesus, the God of heaven, was so normal. Seen him. He engaged him. Went to his house and chilled with him. And Matthew comes to faith. Guys, you don't need to know a lot more than what you know right now to evangelize or share the faith. All you got to do is be a good neighbor. You've come into a relationship with Jesus. You believe on Jesus because you have learned of his sacrifice for you. Because he revealed it to you in his love.
Right.
You know everything you need to know right now to evangelize and share your faith. You don't need a degree to share your faith. You don't need to know a lot of theology to share your faith.
Amen.
You don't need to be weird to share your faith and holier than everybody else.
Yeah.
All you have to do is be a good neighbor.
Yes.
So the small stuff, watch this. Small stuff really seems to count for Jesus. Small stuff. Remember the text that said mustard seed faith? You follow me?
Yes.
It said, hey, you want to move a mountain? In other words, you want to do the impossible for God?
Yes.
All you need
Faith.
is faith the size of a mustard seed.
Yeah.
Them Jones are small. Mustard seeds are small. Jesus said, you want to do incredible things for my name's sake? You don't need to be the strongest, most fierce, believer in the world. You just got to have a little bit of faith in the strong God of the world. And with a little bit of faith in the strong God of all the universe, he'll use you to do whatever. Jesus seems to be really comfortable with small and normal stuff. Mustard seed faith, a couple of fish and a few loaves of bread. You want to do something incredible for the community? You want to be able to feed the hungry in your community? You want to feed way more people than the people in your immediate family? You said, man, I need a 501c3. I need to have a connection with the best pantry in town, and I need like 10 trucks. And when I get that stuff, I can do something incredible for my community.
Nope.
Jesus said, no.
Wow.
Find whatever's there.
Wow.
Bring it in. Use that. And let me do what I do.
That's right.
Y'all not with me?
Yeah.
So give me what you got. Whatever you got. I remember when I was unemployed for a while. I was living with my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, me and my wife, we were there. And I was unemployed for a little bit. And I had to do something with my time. I said, man, I can't just sit around. I got to do something. So I got like hot cocoa or something like that. And then I would get like bread, and I'd go around the neighborhood, and I'd feed the homeless. Just out the car, just pop out some hot cocoa and some bread or whatever. And I did that for a little while. Next thing you know, I'm working for the Miami Rescue Mission. Next thing you know, I'm working in the nonprofit sector to help orphans, to help single parents, and to help illegal immigrant alien children. Next thing you know, I'm working as a benevolence coordinator for a big church in South Florida to be able to mobilize the church to do that kind of work. Next thing you know, I plant my own church to equip all of y'all to do that work all around. Hey, hot cocoa and bread. I don't know if you're with me. Hot cocoa and bread. Jesus said, give me whatever fish is around. Give me whatever bread is around. And then he fed a whole host of people. It wasn't nothing crazy. It was not anything crazy. It was just regular stuff.
Good neighbor.
In the hands of our supernatural and incredible God.
Wow.
You don't have to be an expert to evangelize. Just a good neighbor. Now, Jesus, he noticed people. He prayed for them. He listened to them. He asked them questions. He loved them. He welcomed them. He facilitated good conversations. He served people. And he shared the good news of the kingdom while doing that. And you know what the outcome was? Your salvation. He was just a good neighbor. He was a good neighbor. He went around and just loved people. And as he loved people, it drove him to incredible sacrifice.
Yeah.
By which you and I are saved.
Yeah.
Now, to be sure, there was nothing common about the sacrifice Jesus paid. To be sure, there's nothing common about the great pains that he endured to bring about our salvation. To be sure, there was nothing common about him taking on pierced hands and pierced feet and dying on the cross and rising on the third day. There was nothing common about that. But he did that because he became common. He couldn't die in your place as a spirit. He could only rescue us by becoming common. Our salvation is uncommon. The process by which we lead people into relationship with Jesus, though, it should be very common. Let's eradicate the wedge that we put between people and Jesus by becoming more normal, by becoming more regular, and by not stopping at noticing and praying for people. But instead, by noticing people, engaging with people in regular, ordinary ways, while sharing the faith with them, and let's watch God do what he always does.
Yes.
Bring about salvation,
Yes, sir.
transformation, and incredible change to our communities. Amen?
Amen.